Good evening. I'd like to call the November 2016 meeting of the Public Safety Citizens Advisory Board meeting to order. The first order of business is I want to introduce the board. Far left is Connor Common. He is our student representative. He's a senior at Blue Springs South High School. He's representing the youth of the community on the board. We have Cindy Hood, board member, Jerry Kaler. I'm Bob Morton. We have Natalie Belchins. And then we have City Councilman Jeff Quibell, who is the liaison from the City Council. And far right is Chief McCoy, Chief of Police for Blue Springs. First order of business is the minutes of the October meeting. Has everybody had a chance to review them on the board?
I'll make a motion. I make a motion.
Okay.
Approve.
We have a motion to approve the minutes of the October meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Natalie. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? And the minutes passed. The main topic tonight, this is the public forum, an annual public forum for the Public Safety Advisory Board. And tonight's topic is the cooperation between two emergency agencies in Blue Springs. The Central Jackson County Fire Protection District covers EMS, fire, and in a way EMA. That'll be explained a little further later tonight. And the Blue Springs Police Department. It's a very rare occurrence in the Midwest to have our police and fire so closely related, working in a great relationship. And part of it's due to a lot of the guests we have in the audience. We have a large contingent of the Community Emergency Response Team. Be discussed in the presentation tonight are present. Appreciate you guys showing up. A lot of old faces and friends I see. Thank you. Police command staff is here. Also Chris Sandy, who is the Director of Public Works for the City of Blue Springs, and he is the city's representative to Central Jackson County Emergency Management Agency. So thanks, Chris, for you being here. The presentation tonight is being done by Sergeant Alan Kentz from the Blue Springs Police Department and Deputy Chief Eddie Staffel. And they've got a little presentation they want to give you. Shows the communication and the benefits to the city of Blue Springs. It's covered mostly by CJC. There's a small portion in the southern part of Blue Springs that is covered by the Prairie Township Fire Protection District. And the police department does have a working relationship with them also. But the CERT team is basically part of CJC, EMA, sponsored and trained by the police department. So with further ado, Sergeant Alan Kentz, turn it over to you.
Thank you to the board and all the attendees tonight. Appreciate you letting us come and make this presentation. Again, my name is Eddie Staffel. I'm an assistant chief with Central Jackson County Fire and involved in our EMA. And really my part of the presentation tonight is just to kind of explain how our CJC EMA works. Right now, there's a position at the top. The Deputy Chief of Central Jackson County Fire, Jeff Grote, is the emergency manager. And as you guys know, EMA is the main focus is to make sure that we're planned for and exercise any resource management needs that we have in the event that a disaster happens, tornado or a tanker truck rollover on the highway or something like that. If there's a large scale emergency, EMA is going to be put together at probably our training center as in the EOC, and then we'll do the resource management from there. And resource management means making sure the fire trucks are out, the police officers, Chris's folks with the debris management, and the public works, utilities, and anybody else that we might need. So Jeff Grote, Deputy Chief Jeff Grote with CJC is the emergency manager. He's the oversight for all of this. And then within EMA, it's made up of the 4 agencies that are represented by coordinators on the board. I'm the representative for CJC Fire. As you mentioned, Chris Sandy is the representative for the City of Blue Springs. Ryan Hunt is the city administrator for Green Valley, and he's the representative for Green Valley. And then Jim Ross currently sits on the board for Lake Tapawingo. Those 4 agencies have a voting seat at our coordinators board, and we decide the budget, how the procedures and policies are put into place in the event that we have an emergency and we have things taken care of. Each entity, each of those agencies that are represented put in a contribution every year, and that's how we form our budget. We're also partially funded by what's called the Emergency Management Performance Grant. It's a 50-50 match through the state. So CJC EMA, for example, we just hired a new full-time emergency management person. Their salary and benefits is partially paid by EMA, partially paid by the state grant, and then the part that's paid by EMA is split between the 4 entities. So to have a full-time person with little cost to each of those agencies individually is really important. See, the emergency management anymore is more of a science than it ever used to be. We're held to a higher standard by the federal government, by state government, and then by our local government and by the people that we protect. In the event that something comes through like what happened in Joplin, we want to be as prepared as possible. This full-time person will take care of a lot of that. He'll design the exercises, make sure that we're out practicing those exercises, make sure that our operations plan is in effect and all the information in there is up to date, among a number of other things that we are still developing and setting priorities for. Within that EMA, then there are at the table, there are also non-voting community partners. Blue Springs Police has a seat. Chief Munns typically sits in with us. Green Valley PD with Captain Beal. The hospital has a representative, St. Mary's, because they are such a large partner, but also because they would be one of our largest problems if we have a disaster, especially on the highway. The school districts, both Green Valley and Blue Springs, have representatives that are assigned to the table. And what that group really does, although the 4 coordinators are the voting and the decision makers, we take input from all of those community partners as well to help us make policies that not only take care of the public, but also those large scale. The school districts, we're protecting 12,000 kids in Blue Springs and over 4,000 in Green Valley. And that's a huge component of what's going to happen, what our resources are going to be designated for, especially if it happens during a school day. So we have that community partnership. But really the focus tonight is the partnership between CJC Fire and Blue Springs PD. And I think it goes further than that, even the city and the fire district. But with PD, from the time that I've been here since '91, we've always had a good relationship. And I think that cooperatives like this, like the EMA, like the CERT team that Alan's going to talk about in a little bit, really show that cooperation and how well we work together. The CERT team started out years ago CERT training started years ago as a fire district with the fire district through a grant, and we couldn't do it. So PD took it over, and Bob, I don't remember how long ago you guys kind of started that process, but over the last few years it's developed now. It's under the CJC EMA umbrella, and our membership's grown. The training's being done cooperatively. Chris and Alan and I are the coordinators of that team, and then they have their own leadership team that are their own policymakers, and we just act as consultants and coordinators for that. And if it wasn't for the fact that the agencies got together so well, we couldn't have the programs underneath those agencies that work as well as they do. And when Alan talks about the CERT team and what they are and what they do for us, you'll see that the CERT team is important, and they're at the level that they are because of the relationships that we have with the city and with Blue Springs PD in particular. So, are there any questions for me about EMA? All right. Thank you.
Thank you all for having us. I want you to know I set my alarm so I know when I've been talking an hour, okay? I'm about to get shot from behind. My job here tonight, and what I'm very happy to do, is talk about the CERT team and the way this all does work together. And I want to second Eddie's comments about our relationship, you know, being on the road all those decades ago now, it seems like. We've always worked well together, and we've always had each other's backs, and you don't see that a lot in a lot of different agencies. So it's a really good thing that we do have here, and we do get along well. I want to talk about the CERT team and how we fit into either the fire department, the police department, the EMA, and we're parts of all of it. And we've been utilized, you'll see in a little bit, in all of them. We talk about CJC in Blue Springs. Originally, when I started here in '84, we were all EMTs, and the ambulance service was with the city. That changed in early '90s, I can't recall where, and EMS went to CJC, and we went to first responders, and I think it's worked out very well that way. But again, we perform integrated functions. We all have a job to do. We're on the same scenes, but we don't typically try to do each other's jobs or keep each other from doing their jobs. Took a little picture here. I was out one day and we had a wreck at 7 in Maine. And I just put this in here because it kind of a little microcosm of how everybody has a job to do and how we do work together. So if the police are on the scene, they first secure it and they start providing first aid. When the fire and EMS get there, they take over that, and we do scene safety. We're directing traffic. We make sure nobody else gets run over. We don't cause any more injuries. And we start working the accident to figure out what happened. And it's even got the tow truck in there, so we're clearing the road, and it's all a part of the system. And they all have to work together. And that just, and I was out one day and that just came up, and I thought that's a really good snapshot of how we really do work together. And again, we don't get in fist fights out there or anything like that. Origins of CERT, and it began really, if you remember, and some of you won't, weren't born yet, but in '89 in the World Series in San Francisco, Game 3, they had an earthquake, a major earthquake. Things are falling all over the place, people are trapped, and they realized within hours that emergency services, all the professional responders, were totally overwhelmed. You couldn't get there from here. Even if you had the people, you couldn't get there. And so the federal government came up with the idea that we need to teach citizens how to be prepared. We need to teach citizens how to take care of themselves in those instances where we cannot get there. And thus CERT was born. And basically for us, it's earthquake. Not so much for us. Tornadoes are #1 issue, floods, and then we have the man-made disasters. The Hyatt would be an example of a major incident for our area. Some of you may not have heard of that either. But that's where it came from, and the idea just to be able to get more help to more people quickly. So, oops, I knew I was going to do that. All right. That's just a picture of early on we were doing mock call-outs. And so we had, up at the Parks Department building, we had teams in there. We were getting assignments. We were going out and handling a mock scenario. So we do the training. And our training is along the lines of the same thing that the fire command structure does. So you know, you have an incident commander, you have all of those things that we do. So we practice it, so in a real situation, and we've had several, we're familiar when they start talking about who's the incident commander and the different terminology, so they know. So we want them to be used to that. And all of these people in the green back here, they know it. This is just the outline of the basic CERT training that this is done. That's the federal program, and that's what we start with. We've changed over the years as we've tried to get more people involved, but there's basically 8 sessions you come to for 3 hours a night, 1 night a week for 8 weeks. And we talk about disaster preparedness, fire safety, disaster medical, parts 1 and 2, you get 2 different nights of it. So you get to learn how to triage, you get to learn how to splint broken bones and do those kinds of things that normally we wouldn't do. We do light search and rescue, and then we talk about CERT organization, which is all those emergency operations center issues. And we talk about terrorism, because that's on everybody's mind. So there is that issue. One of the lessons close to my heart is disaster psychology, because when you get out, if you actually get into the weeds with some of this stuff and this happens and you're dealing with a lot of trauma, it can eat you up. And if you don't look out and take care of it, you can hurt yourself, both physically and emotionally. So we try to train people and give them signs to look for and things to do, and more importantly, places to go if that comes up. And then we do an exercise, which we try to do normally at night, so make it a little more difficult, and bring their flashlights and go, we're going to go into the woods and search. That's typically well received. People seem to like that. They like getting out in the woods. I don't understand, in the dark. This is a picture from Joplin. And I put this in here because at the time that Joplin hit, the CJC Heavy Rescue Squad was activated almost immediately and headed to Joplin. And they were one of the first. They're a FEMA major disaster team. And they went down to Joplin. And when they got down there wasn't a lot set up, and they'd been down there for several hours, and they were tired and going to try and go to sleep. Well, that is a mattress store that was all but destroyed, so they were going to go in and liberate some mattresses to sleep on, and the local officers wouldn't allow them to do it. So they had no place to sleep. And there's really no accommodations for food yet. Another thing that happened was while they were out, they would leave the truck and go search, and other people, agencies would come by and see the nice truck full of shiny toys and decided they needed some. And so in good faith, actually, they borrowed stuff to go help people, but it never came back. So 2 things we have kind of done for the future, it's in the plans, is if they are activated like that, again, we're going to activate a CERT contingent to go down. We have tents and sleeping bags and a kitchen, so we can go down and feed them. And we're going to send some police officers so that the equipment doesn't walk away from their trucks. So that's just learning out of that experience. All right, another picture of Joplin, same thing, just massive devastation, and it just gives you an idea of what you were dealing with on that level of disaster. All right, we train a lot. We have monthly either meetings or trainings, and we're working it to where we're going to train 2 months and then have a basic business meeting, and that's going to be half training. So we're trying to get more familiar every month, every time we get together with how to help people. They train with both the police and the fire department. They've trained with the Heavy Rescue Squad and CJC search team. They've trained with us on searching. They are in the EMA disaster plan. The CERT team is part of the disaster plan, so if we would have one of those here, they would be activated and would have an assignment with the command. They're not going to be out going through falling down buildings, and one of our goals is to not put them in places where they're going to get hurt as best we can. We can't always control that, but we're not going to knowingly send them out someplace that's going to get them hurt. They're volunteers. They don't have necessarily all the equipment that the fire or the police have, but they're a huge asset. And they also, when we had the Bandito rally in Green Valley a couple years ago, the CERT team was activated to assist with that, and they did the command post. They were in the EOC. They were logging everybody in and out and doing all of those functions so that a police officer, firefighter didn't have to be in there doing it. But also, after the first few hours, one of the main leaders of one of the units went sick and went home, and they got tagged with, "You're in charge of this whole unit now," and they didn't know that it was any different. So they did a great job, and that gets you into a trust. And believe me, to get from an outside point to get trust with the police department or the fire department is not easily done. We just kind of have a little closed circle. But they have proven their worth to the officers and to the firefighters, and that is a huge deal. Again, one of the things we do is traffic control, and we have used them several times. We use them at the Fall Fun Fest for the parade route. We use them at National Night Out, and it's a huge, huge help. But we have a little classroom session, and then we go out in the dark and direct traffic. And usually we try to pick a place that doesn't really have too much traffic, but we create our own, Jerry. He comes zooming in. I mean, it's fun, but you better stay on your toes. But we try to create reality so they understand what it's going to be like. And most of them, they light a flare and they go out and learn how to do flare patterns, and a lot of us have never used a flare before, so it's new training, something new that they get to do and they'll use. Our CERT call-outs, I got to looking and I didn't realize we had all of these, I'll be honest with you. So we actually started thinking about the team in 2009, I believe. I went to Captain Morton at the time and said we need something more for our volunteers and police service to do, and he says, well, let's do CERT. And I said, okay, what's that? I had never even heard of it before. So yes, it did kind of this time around start as a police program, and then it's kind of morphed into the EMA. So first thing we got was going to Levacy in a flood and assist with filling sandbags. Glamorous? No. Need to be done? Absolutely. All right. We then assisted Parkville with sandbagging. And then on October the 3rd, we had an incident on 7 in Vesper. We had some shots fired. There was a car chase, and when they got them down in Kansas City, they said, we don't have the gun. So we activated the CERT team, and we went on a line search from 7 in Vesper to almost Woods Chapel and I-70. So we had 25 CERT members out on that one, and that was a good training. We didn't find the gun because it turned out they had it in Kansas City. But, we didn't know that, and we went at it like for real. March of 12, we had a missing 10-year-old girl, and again, roll out and search, and those are the ones you don't want to get. We train, and that's one of the things. It's kind of hard to make everybody understand or even understand myself, but we train for all this stuff and then hope it never happens and we never have to do it. But that having to do it gives us purpose and makes us realize. So found a 10-year-old girl. In May of 12, we assisted, we had a missing 4th grader at Lucy Franklin. The school called the police and we called CERT, and we went out on that one and we found the little girl hiding. She had gotten in trouble at school and didn't want to go home, and she was hiding from us. So it's kind of harder to find them when they are hiding. Shortly after that, October of 13, we had a wreck at 7 and Shaw, and I'd forgotten all about this one, and the traffic lights went out. And we sent the CERT team out there, and that was 10 or 12 hours. We directed traffic at that intersection, which was a major intersection, and relieved patrol officers to go and do patrol jobs. They didn't need to do it. They've had the training. Let's relieve them. That's what we're there for. Unfortunately, then we had a CJC firefighter pass away, and we assisted with traffic at that funeral. And then we had a captain in Fort Osage that was killed in line of duty, and we assisted with traffic detail for that funeral. And those are horrible things to watch, but it's a good thing to be able to help with. And then in September, we had 2 girls missing at Blue Springs Lake, near Blue Springs Lake, and they ended up, we'd searched for several, I think a couple, 3 hours, and finally one of the officers saw them. And again, they were hiding from us, so it was kind of different. We had one of our members actually live out there and had a game camera out, and they had pictures of the girls coming through and then the officers coming through and then the girls going back. It was it was different. Then in October, we had a gentleman who I think was like 38, but had had brain surgery and had the mental capacity of a 13-year-old. And he had gone out to Blue Springs Lake, Jacomo, trying to find the gold that Jesse James had left in a cave out there. And he didn't come back all night. And so we were activated to search for him. And again, he was camoed up, had a camouflage face mask on. He was hiding in the woods from everybody. But again, if he'd been out there a whole lot longer, he'd have been in some trouble. And then just I think the last week in October, we were called out to assist in searching for evidence in a major crime. We had information that some pistols had been dumped out along 7 Highway north of Pink Hill. And we searched for a good solid 6 hours for those. And eventually they were all located. We had dogs out with us, and the dogs luckily found them after the end of that search, but we were crawling on our hands and knees through the brush. Interesting day. But we didn't want a kid to get a hold of those things. That's what the main concern was. Again, here's an evidence. We were training. We go out at CJC facility, training facilities where we have our trainings. And that was actually the line search we started doing, looking for the guns that we had thought had been thrown out at 7 Vesper. Last thing well, I'll wait on that just a second. I do have one of the CERT members that I wanted to bring up and let him talk very briefly about his experiences. George Brockman is going to come talk to you just for a minute about what he sees going on.
Thank you, Alan. Hello, board. Thank you. I started in the Citizens Police Academy, and after we had done that, they started the CERT team. I've been involved in that for about 4 years or more, I think. And I heard they needed help in the worst way, and I thought that's in my wheelhouse. So the point that I want to make up here is that there's a job for everybody. I wish that I was in better shape. I would like to be out walking the line, looking for the thrown away gun and the evidence, or looking for the missing kid, but I'm not physically able to do that. But we do set up with each call out an emergency operations center, and they need some clerical help there, and I can do that. We've talked recently, in the case of a big disaster, there will be a need for damage assessment teams, and that could easily involve some people who are just driving, taking notes, and things like that. So it's something I can do. It makes me feel useful, and it's an excellent program. I've been involved in several of those call-outs, and made me feel really good to be of some help. Any questions? Thank you.
And again, I can tell you that when he showed up, we had the one with the 2 missing girls, and it was crazy. I mean, we had Highway Patrol and County and Independence and us, and and he's right by me. He pulled up a chair, and everywhere I went, he went. And I got a little excited, so I was kind of moving around. And he's grabbing his chair, coming along, sitting down, and I didn't have to worry about keeping track of things, which I really needed done. So they all do anything that we need them to do. And they're just hugely, hugely beneficial to me and the police department and the fire department. Last thing I just wanted to quickly talk about, and this is different, but it's also a combination of the 2 agencies. We have the Emergency Services Chaplains, and they're the EMA, Emergency Management Agency, Emergency Services Chaplain. Say that 3 times fast. I have 2 of them here tonight, but I wanted to just bring that up because if the fire department we're out at a scene where we need a chaplain, the fire department can call them, we can call them. If another agency can't get a hold of one of their chaplains, they go, and they never bat an eye about it. Glenn Nash, you want to go ahead and stand up a second? Glenn is been the longest serving emergency services chaplain with us now. He's also the department chaplain, which is a little different thing. So he goes to our major events, but they all are welcome to them. But there's an emergency services chaplain, and then there's a police department chaplain, and I believe CJC has it also, their own chaplain for that. Cliff Caton Jr. is not here tonight, but he's been for the year now, probably. It's been Cliff and Glenn on a rotating basis. So Wayne Geiger has just been approved. Go ahead and stand up a second, Wayne, so they all know you, because they show up on a scene and I'm trying to get them around and introduce them to the squads at briefing, so when they come to a scene, the officers at least got an idea who they are or why are you here. So, and the officers like seeing these guys come up because it's a huge help with the families, because usually it's a scene of a death, and the families are awfully distraught, as you would expect, and they help calm them down, give them direction, and kind of be a buffer between the officers and the family, so the officers can do their job. The family can get information that they need, and it helps everybody. David Lynch couldn't be here tonight, and Cliff Caton III, he is Cliff's son, but his major issue or fill in the need is a Sunday morning, because he's not actually in the pulpit normally on a Sunday, so, and everybody else is. So we dread the time we get a Sunday morning call out and we really don't have anybody. So now we have somebody to cover that. And if they call him C3, if he was in the pulpit, then Cliff Jr. would be available to come out. So it fills a need for us. All right, and that is all that I have. I think I've even beat an hour. So, any questions for me?
I have one.
Yes, sir.
If someone wanted to be a part of this organization, how would they get a hold of you, or how does one contact somebody?
Thank you. I knew I'd forget that. If you want to be a part of the CERT organization, you must either live or work within the CJC Fire Protection District area or the City of Blue Springs. And that's because part of our district, the fire district, kind of is separated down south, but if you live in the city, you can be part of the CERT team. And that's the reason that's designated that way. So we're trying to get more people. It's, like I said, started out as a Blue Springs thing, and we're getting more people from Green Valley, and a little bit, we're trying to spread it out to the whole district. So they can call me. You can get on the website, and my name's on the website, check for CERT, and or you can call dispatch and they will get you to me. But I will get you on the list for training, and we try to run 2 courses a year, but 3 would just be too much with an 8-week course.
So you don't have to be a member or in the confine of the CJC area then?
You do.
Okay.
Or that little part of the city that's
part of the
not
city
in
of Blue Springs.
CJC down south.
Okay.
But other than that, yes. And no membership in anything else, and you don't have to have prior training. We will give you all you need.
Connor, you have a question?
Yes, sir.
Turn this on. How many people are part of the CERT program? Like, how many members do you have joined?
We have had around 80 go through the training. That's just off the top of my head. We probably have about 35 active members right now. And some just, it doesn't work out for them. And in order to actually be part of the team, you have to go through some additional training. That basic you can come through, and if you just want to be basically CERT trained and go help your neighborhood if something happens, you're welcome to do that, and we will absolutely welcome you in and train you. But if you want to be a part of the deployable team, then you have to go through the traffic control and some more search and some more first aid. We give everybody CPR training, AED training. So there's quite a bit of additional training that they've all gone through to be a member of the actual deployable team. So, does that answer your question? Okay.
Do we have any other questions from the board? No? Cam, have you got your microphone on over there?
I sure do.
Since we're live on Channel 7 and you are typing away over there, I assume there's some tweets coming in, maybe some questions?
There are no questions at this time. We've had a lot of feedback saying thank you for all of the work that CJC and BSPD does.
Okay, well, they can always send you the question at the site that's published, and we'll get it and get them an answer, whether it's tonight or whenever. Since I have a lot of experience with the CERT team, I want to know if there's anybody who wants to come up and talk about the confidence that it gave you just to deal with problems in your own neighborhood, let alone assisting the PD or the fire department. One of the members come up, because I've heard you all talk about it at times. I just want somebody to maybe talk to others about it. No? Okay. Well, I'll come right on up.
Good evening. My name's Marty Beers, and I work for the City of Blue Springs, and I am employed over at Vesper Hall. And so my main reason for going through the CERT training was to better prepare myself to assist the seniors at Vesper Hall if there was a catastrophic event. So I just want to say that going through the training has helped me do that. I feel better prepared to assist the seniors, and my goal now is to get more involved as a volunteer with the CERT group. So I just wanted to share that with you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions from the board? Comments? I want to thank Eddie for coming up and representing CJC, the police division commanders. I see the captains that are here, and the board. So I guess we will entertain a motion to adjourn then.
I'll make a motion.
Jerry makes the motion that we adjourn. And do I have a second?
Second the motion.
And Natalie seconds it. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? And we are adjourned.